right. Welcome back to the podcast. This is super exciting because it's also our first video podcast. And I have Noah here. What's up, Noah?
Hey Lauren, what's up? How you doing?
I am good and I am excited. So, y'all who normally listen to the podcast know that we have been updating all of our courses constantly for weeks now. And Noah is hard at work on the SEO updates. And I thought, how great would it be to have him on the podcast and to talk about some of these updates ahead of the course, just as a little kind of sneak peek. Oh, look, there's the cat.
Yeah, my cat's probably going to join us for a lot of the podcast. This is Myra, and she seems to only want to hang out with me when I need to work. So,
She can sense that your attention is elsewhere.
exactly.
So, anyways, let's just dive right in, Noah. Tell us about what's been going on in SEO and yeah, you let me know where you want to start.
Yeah, look, SEO is a big question on everyone's mind right now, right? Everyone is very confused about, hey, this AI is taking over the internet. It's making all the content. Everyone's using it. What does this mean for SEO now? Google just came out with its helpful content update, and a lot of people got crushed by that. And people are just confused. They're wondering. I think this is probably the biggest SEO change that I've seen since I've been in the industry. And so people are just kind of confused. They're really wondering what the SEO landscape looks like now. So as I've been going through the course, it's been important to like give people an idea of what this new world of SEO looks like now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and y'all, when he says people have been wondering, myself, I am included in that. I'm bugging Noah all the time on our Slack channels. Hey, I'm writing this piece of content. What's going on? Why do I need to do this? Yeah, I'm constantly asking questions about all of this stuff because we use AI to create content. And yeah, I mean, let's maybe start, or do you want to start with the AI stuff, Noah?
Yeah. So, first of all, I think it's really important to understand that, like, there's a difference between something being like a trend and something being like a new technology, right? And it's very important that people realize this technology is not going anywhere. It's kind of like, when the internet came out, people were like, skeptical or like, oh, this is never going to go anywhere. This is not that. Every company, a major company, Facebook, Google, all of these major companies, they have their own AIs. They've been using AI systems for years. Some form of AI has existed for many, many years for all of these platforms. But now we're just kind of entering a new era of AI where people can interact in it and it can or interact with it. And it can become a much more kind of as we've seen, like a creative tool, something that can assist a creator or assist someone that is creating content in some way. And so it's important first to recognize that, like, AI isn't a trend. This is something to adopt to a new way of doing business, a new way of existing online and being a content creator online. So I think that's the first major point, is just getting people behind the idea that this isn't going away. It's time to, start looking into how this makes sense for you. You don't have to adopt it all at once. You'll find different use cases, but this is going to be something that everyone's using. It's not something that Google's like, no, no AI, no one use it. They know that this is the future, and they know that it's a big part of SEO for the future and kind of what that landscape looks like. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember when AI was first kind of creeping through, all the different channels, and I was like, I don't know about this. I was definitely not one of the earliest adopters. And yeah, just wondering about how it was going to affect things. And it became very clear, as you said, this is not a trend. This is something that is not going to be going away. And I think that everyone else started to slowly realize that too. And then it was like just this wave, and Google and nobody else, no other companies now can think any other way because this is the future and this is how it is. Um,
Yeah.
but I think one of the biggest questions is, you know, how to the extent that we use AI, does Google
My light just went
penalize
out. Hold
us
on one
for
second. My light bulb just went out. That was strange. There
You
you go.
can't even notice a difference, I feel like.
Oh, really? I thought it got super dark. I
No.
just turned it back on. Anyways, keep going.
Anyways, so yeah, I think the question really is, does Google penalize us for AI content? I mean, they must not, right? But
Right.
to what extent that we're using AI? Because, you know, when AI even first was coming on the market and content creators started using it, it was a bit more robotic. But even now, I can tell the really big difference in Jasper, the tool
Right.
that we use now from 3 months ago when I was using it. It sounds a lot more human-like, a lot more natural, and it's giving a lot better results as well. So I know that AI is also learning very quickly, but do we need to
Yeah.
be concerned at all about using AI to write 100% of our content or the vast majority of it? Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a really big question. This is kind of, and this is something that I definitely am trying to address clearly in the SEO updates too. Is where does AI play a role in my content creation, or where should it play a role in my content creation? And really, I think that it's important for people to realize that why is she so interested in you? She just wants to know who is this. I think it's really important for people to recognize, and this isn't to say that this is how everyone does it. I'm not trying to generalize, blogging, but the reality is you're trying to satisfy a user intent. When someone's looking for something, there's an answer you're trying, or a question you're trying to answer. And there's only so many ways to answer that question. A large majority of the top 10 answers that you see, maybe the top 50 answers that you see, are going to be answering the same question. And so a lot of content that people create is repetitive. A lot of content that people create is kind of robotic in the sense that it's saying the same thing that their competitors are saying. So when people take the time to realize this AI is really only doing the thing that I already do more efficiently, what can I add to this to make it better? So, what are the things that you can do that AI can't do to make that content really incredible? Basically, the robotic and repeatable things that you're doing, the idea of just, answering this question the same way everyone else does it, let AI do that part. Make your outline, let it write out the steps, but then, you know, experiment with it. Try, adding your own steps in, things, your own tips that help, the things that you found that make the process easier. It's really going to become very much about that personal experience and that personal input, because that's what AI can't do. You can't get AI to give you an incredible first person real life example that your audience is like, wow, they get me. They've done this same thing. And so that's what you want to focus on, making your content valuable, because it's really personable, it's really relatable, and you've put a lot of you in there. So let the AI do the part that we, all do, trying to answer the general question, and then go in and add you to that. Add your perspective, your tips, your um kind of reality of the experience to it, so that it can be as helpful as possible. I think that is really how AI and a human work together to create the most valuable and helpful content.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, I think that the goal is really when you are looking for content on Google and you click on an article, and you're reading this content, and most of the content does seem to be a carbon copy of all the other content out there.
Yep.
But you're reading through, and then something in this article makes you stop and you're like, wow, either, that was an insightful point, or this person's experience was, wow, like something makes you
Right.
kind of stop and think about the source that you're reading. And I think that that's what is
Right.
important. That's what gets people kind of clicking over to other articles, checking out your brand and your website, and really like starting to relate to you. And of course, this is one of the pinnacles of what we teach in our courses, is this experienced base, writing and communicating with your audience, because it's literally the only thing that you have that can separate your content out from
Yeah,
anybody else's.
absolutely. It's all about, you know, the teachings. Anyone can say, me and my mom talk about this all the time. She gets really pissed off because she'll be like, I used to tell you that all the time when you were a kid, but now that this person told you that, you'll listen, right? And I think a lot of parents have that experience, and we have that with friends and
My
mentors.
husband also says that.
But the reality is sometimes we just need to hear something in a certain way for it to click. And so, there are universal answers or concepts or ideas that we can all be aware of, and that we can, have our own agreed upon consensus for. But really, what's going to make it special is how can you provide a unique perspective that maybe makes it click for somebody that somebody else can't? That's, what's kind of cool about AI. Let it that, is repeatable for everyone else, but what makes you different or unique or special or able to teach this in a way that someone else or the generalized concepts can't? Because it might click for someone coming from you, you know?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, let's pivot a little bit now to this EEAT and some of the other changes in the SEO landscape. And before you get
Yeah.
into changes about EEAT, please also just explain, to our audience what exactly that means.
Yeah. So, I mean, really, it's nothing to like freak out about too much. People try and like put a really strict definition on it. It's really think about it as just your credibility online. It's really just that expertise, that credibility. It's going to be things like certifications, where you went to school, the things that make you appear to be an authority on whatever you're talking about. And it's funny because people think that it needs to be something drastic. Say like, oh, I have a doctorate in this thing. And that's not what EAT is about. It's about um topical understanding. So if you are someone that you describe that this is your passion and you publish a lot of content around this and you spent hours studying this and have published papers about this, things like that, self-published stuff, that makes you an expert too. You don't have to be someone that is a doctorate in a field or something like that to be considered an expert. But it is very important that you do know why you are an expert, even if it's just that you're curious. I think you and I, we were talking about organization in the business the other day, like systems. And a great example of this is Thomas Frank. He is widely known as like one of the best resources for getting organized in a business or in life. And it's funny because he's not a neuroscientist or a psychologist or anything like that. He's just a nerd who loves organizing his life. And so by continuing to publish content and continuing to talk about that, experimenting with it, it's something he's naturally curious about. And continuing to express that and kind of existing in that ecosystem shows Google, hey, this person kind of has some authoritativeness on this. So really it comes down to like each should be natural. And if you think about Google's goal, all the algorithms that it has ideally should be natural. It's just people are attempting to game them, right? So it's really important when you think about this formula of something like EAT and you say, what would the natural state of this look like? Right. And the natural state of EAT would be in the communities of people that are in your niche. Talk about those things with people that are professionals, listen to podcasts about that thing and interact with the community around it. Put your own studies out there, your own experiments, get involved with it. And that will naturally build up authoritativeness. It'll get you featured in other places. It'll get you put in, featured on Forbes. It'll get you places in life, and that will build authoritativeness in your niche. So, you don't have to go out and fetch a certificate or a degree. It's just explaining, hey, I know more about this than the people who don't know anything about it. And this is why, kind of, is a great way to think about it.
So it's EAT, not EEAT. Am I showing
Yeah.
my lack of
Well,
knowledge over the subject?
no, it's very commonly like people, and I don't even get too attached because everyone, like I said, it's just the concept that matters. But it's really just expertise, authoritativeness. It's really just trustworthiness. But yes, it is technically EEAT.
Which does
Yes.
stand for
Look, see, girl, I'm a professional at this, paid hella money for this, and don't even know all of them. It's expertise, authoritativeness, trustworthiness is the
What,
original E. I don't know what the
but
new
we added
one
an E
actually
and you don't
is.
know what it
Yes,
is.
experience, of course.
Experience.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like I said, natural, like what you're naturally, finding yourself in these situations in regard to this niche. When you're talking about something a lot, doing something a lot, you have experience with it. And Google can tell that. Google's like, huh, this person knows something about blogging. This person knows something about making money or investing. And I can tell because of their kind of online profile or credibility, if you will.
Yeah.
But like I
And
said, you don't need to memorize the acronym. You just need to know the concept.
but we look smarter if we have the acronym memorized.
If you know the acronym, people will pay you more money.
Well, and I'm sure that this is becoming more and more important, and Google is beginning to prioritize this more and more because of the sheer volume of content on the internet and the sheer volume of content written by people who don't know anything about anything on the internet.
Right.
And especially now that we have this tool with AI, and I suppose it's a good thing that people are using AI because at least most of the content won't be wrong. They don't just make it up,
That's
right? But it
well,
doesn't mean
it's
that
debatable
anybody
as well.
it doesn't mean that anybody can write content about anything. And Google prioritizing this EAT, it's because they want to prioritize content for people who do have expertise and or experience in what they're talking about. So Noah, what exactly can people do? Just we go into this in detail in our course, but kind of higher level, what can people do to show that they have this EAT portion covered for their website or content?
Yeah. So, first of all, I think the first process is going to be recognizing, like I said, AI is a tool and you are a person using that tool. Right. And it's kind of like, I see these videos on my TikTok feed all the time of like, what do you call them? Like tips for how to use an iPhone. And there's stuff that I didn't even know. I'm like, know how to use my 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 iPhone. Like I only know like 10% of the functions.
It's because we're
And
getting
so it
old.
all yeah, yeah, I guess that too. And just not growing up with like a lot of tech kind of like made me not really explore a lot of that. And so it's really important to understand, first of all, like what all can my tool do? How does it work? And that's why like we're really moving into that area of, especially in like the course of trying to like educate people on AI, because it's only as good as you use it or understand it. And a big part of that is that AI is suggestive. You can suggest things to it and it will listen to you. It will follow those suggestions. And so, it's very important that when you're writing content, you don't just let an AI tool just spit things out. You make an outline and then you suggest your general thoughts for each paragraph, kind of what you think, your perspective. Let it fill out that content using your thoughts and perspectives as kind of a baseline, right? Because it'll also make that content have sort of a more uh, relevant, it's like I made the joke the other day to my friend that, Chat GPT just sounds like a rich white banker. It's super like weird, and it's just because, that's what a lot of the data on the internet sounds like. And so you want to include your personality in there, and you should make sure that you're letting your tool know that you want to use your personality. That's why we use Jasper, right? It kind of matches our voice and tone a little bit, but also reflects on our perspectives when we add those. So that's kind of part one is suggest to your AI to your perspectives and ideas on things. And then secondly, it really is as simple as like, what is the thing that you wish you always had? What's the thing that you wish you always knew? When you're reading a piece of content, there was a question that you wanted answered as soon as you clicked on that content. There's something that would have helped you get it sooner. There's something that would have made it click for you. There's something that you're ignoring, you don't think it's valuable enough or that you can include it, that will really be helpful for your audience. And if you ponder on that for a moment on every piece of content that you make and say, like, hey, where's my value to this? And you find a way to add that into your content outside of an AI tool, and that can be maybe you make awesome infographics, maybe you like charts and tables, and maybe you like, things like that, then, go for that, add that. Google, like you said, is being flooded with general AI content. And it really is becoming important for it to the algorithms to have an idea of this is personal, handcrafted, worked on content that a human interacted with.
Yeah. Well, and then there's also the obvious creating a really great about me page, which is no longer just this
Right.
generic, hey, this is where I went to school and this is what my blog is about, right? It's
Yeah.
now telling this whole story about, the content that you create and, not writing a bunch of content that kind of isn't also reflected in your author bio and your author page, right? These
Right.
things are also really important to show that you have this, if not expertise, then at least experience, right? So trying to make sure that
Right.
you write lengthy, not necessarily lengthy, but thorough information about this in these places matters too, right? More than ever.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely this idea that um it's not about what you have, it's about what you got, right? What it gave you, right? Going to school, anybody can get a degree, right? But what did going to school actually give you? What did you get from it? What did that experience actually give you? And so, you went to school for accounting, and it's like, accounting is going to school is a general thing that's good, and getting a degree is important, right? But getting a master's degree requires a certain level of discipline. It requires a certain level of dedication to a topic, of a deeper understanding, right? And there's a certain level of commitment that says something about you as a person and your commitment to this topic, right? So if you had an accounting blog, then you would have a ton of expertise in that, because it's not that you got a master's degree, it's what a master's degree represents. So think about those things whenever you're crafting your bios. What have the experiences I've had and the information that I've collected in my life that have made me, have some type of interest in this topic? What, how have they made me? What have kind of special um expertise has that given me?
Does this also relate to your LinkedIn profile, other social profiles on the internet? I'm guessing Google can kind of read these things, right? I guess it would make sure you'd want to make sure that you would have your LinkedIn profile filled out, even if you don't use LinkedIn, like things like that also matter, right?
Right. It's kind of like for a couple reasons, right? And it's not just Google. It's also like, think of first impressions, right? You always want to make a good first impression on the people that you meet, just so they have an opportunity, if it's there, to be like, hey, this person has a proper understanding of who I am and what I represent, right? That's everyone's goal with a first impression. And so similarly, on the internet, you can't necessarily control what people's how they'll get their first impression of you. They might find a YouTube video. They might find a LinkedIn profile, a Twitter profile, etc. And those profiles, those will lead people to your website, to your products, things like that. And that sort of structure, that kind of a crawling system, is something that builds an overall image of who you are and, like, what you're interested in, your topics. So your online presence in general, uh definitely, it definitely matters in the long run. It's something that, I wouldn't obsess over. Primarily it matters more on your website, but your overall presence online absolutely matters for EAT. And it matters just in general for your customers, your readers, just being properly represented on the internet.
Yeah. Yep, that makes sense. All right. Well, moving on from EAT, we had a couple other topics on
I
SEO
always wonder
and
if it's like in the course that when I say eat, sometimes I'm like, eat. Do I like do an extra E now? I hate it. That's why I don't
EE.
even use the acronym. It's literally like, and then your EEAT. It's just bad. It's all bad.
It's true, but I think it is very helpful to have the acronym just as a reminder of those four important things because they are all
Right.
very important. But
Right. Yeah.
okay, so what else do we need to talk about with the changing SEO landscape?
So really, I think one of the main things that I would kind of like to comfort people on is there's been like a general consensus of people just like wondering if SEO matters. Like if I was starting a new blog, should I focus on SEO, right? Is kind of this question that's been floating on the in the air. Or if I have a relatively new blog or am just now starting to focus on SEO. And I still think it's a resounding yes. It's clear that creating content, even us, we since the helpful content update, we've seen improvements in traffic. And since, the introduction of AI, we've seen improvements in traffic. And, it's not something.
What is the helpful content update? Can you just summarize
So,
what this was?
yeah, so this is just, Google, of course, has its very mysterious updates that everyone debates on what the overall kind of arcing changes were. And the last update, the helpful content update, really kind of was a major shift in perspective of how to approach SEO. It was this idea that Google is now prioritizing content that is very helpful in the definition
Wasn't it
for
always?
See, but as we said, right, there's two parts of the content. Does it answer the question? Does it have the information? And then is it helpful? It's like we said, right? You can get the teachings from anyone, but sometimes it needs to be from a certain perspective or a certain person for it to click, right? So think of it in the sense of a helpful content update is focused on finding the content that's created in a way that's helpful enough that it clicks for the most people. Not the data is all there, but what
Mm-hmm.
makes it click for the most people? What's the most helpful that people actually get the answer that they're looking for? And so it's really prioritizing first person experience, prioritizing, familiarity with the topic, kind of your own sort of perspectives and opinions on things, but connecting those to the general concepts that are already known so that you don't want to like go against the grain and, be like, a completely wrong opinion just for the sake of having an opinion, but it's just your personal experience. It's really just the idea of being helpful by expressing yourself in addition to the content that everyone's putting in their blog posts.
Okay. All right. That makes
Yeah.
sense. You can continue
Yeah.
back on whether SEO is relevant still.
I think it's funny because it's like, I even tell people all the time, like, no, me and Lauren have very different roles. She knows a lot of things that I know nothing about, and I know a lot of things she knows nothing about. We are definitely, it's funny. But anyways, yeah, it's really important that people recognize that SEO does still matter. It matters because, you know, content will always matter. Putting yourself out there, having that content is a matter of sometimes just doing the thing, right? Not thinking about it, planning it out, prepping it, you know, getting it just right in your head. It's actually putting the pen to paper or fingers to keyboard and doing something. So, of course, that's important. But then also, it's important because yeah, you can still rank for things. You still can be an expert on things and you still can get search traffic. And that's not going to go away relatively soon, and even if it does, it doesn't mean that your content is not going to be valuable still in some way. And so it's really important that people still recognize like there is no um, substitute for creating content. And SEO content is phenomenal curated content for, that can be repurposed for any number of things to be used on any platform, to be used in courses, to be used in opt-ins, all of those things. So, to all the people that are scared, wondering, hey, what does this mean about SEO? Keep going, keep doing it, keep focused, keep your head down, and just remember that creating content is something that should be rewarding and fun. You should be following, your own curiosities and really exploring that idea of having personal experience with a topic. So that's really what I'd say to those people, and that's kind of the main thing that I want to get across in the course.
Mm-hmm. Well, we only have a few minutes left because I am too cheap to pay for the paid version of Zoom. These
Hey,
one-off use
somebody's got
cases.
to be frugal around here, and I love that for us.
Um, Anyway, was there anything else? I think one of the topics that we had was publishing frequency, and I know that this is something that we get asked about a lot, and even our publishing frequency has been all over the place in the past
Yeah.
few months. So, what can you tell us about importance of publishing frequency?
So this is probably not going to be what people want to hear. And this is a personal opinion just from me from an SEO perspective. I don't, right now have all the links to back up the data or whatever. But, my personal perspective is that frequency will become important because your competition is going to overshadow you. If someone is just as good as you and they're producing more content than you, they're going to overshadow you. And the reality is, you are unique. You do have your own unique perspectives and et cetera. But if you aren't developing a very proprietary or a very sort of unique way of approaching something for yourself, then you're directly competing with people that are producing what you're producing at a quicker rate. So you got to
Mm-hmm.
go one way or the other. You have to decide that, hey, I'm going to approach this by making something so helpful and unique and specific to me, which I think is a perfect way to approach it. Or I'm going to create, something that is relatively those things, but not so focused on that, and create at a very quick rate. You kind of have to pick one or the other. And most people are going to pick the left option, which is really just the idea of, I'm pretty decent at this and I'm going to produce a lot of content,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know that that will work forever. I think eventually people are going to have to lean into this idea of being super helpful and creating really unique creative content. But if you don't want to do that, you're going to have to step the frequency up. If you are doing that, then I still think one a week is absolutely necessary. It's just, what kind of expert wouldn't talk about something they're an expert in once a week? I mean, would you trust your doctor if he didn't practice medicine once a week? I wouldn't. It's, you want people to be constantly involved in the thing that they're saying they're an expertise in. And so it's not always so much about Google likes it when I post 5 times a week. Google likes it when you're actively an expert in the thing, or actively have experience in the thing that you say you're an expert in. So, it's when you think of it that way, it makes more sense. It's just like if you were posting on a social media platform. If you posted one great video, a year, that'd be great, and maybe it'd get some attention. But there are different ways to approach it. So I still think that one a week of a good, great piece of content has to be the absolute minimum just to keep up. But ideally, 2, 3. If you can get the right systems down, 4 or 5 if you're a psychopath.
Ooh,
But
gives me
that would be
anxiety.
people that are really writing personal blogs. It's like I think of like the bullet journal method guy or James Clear. He wrote on his blog every day. He published a new blog post because he was obsessed. He's like, I'm obsessed with habits. I'm obsessed with productivity. I'm going to post about this and create about this every day. And that's how it should be. People should really love the thing that they're making and want to talk about it every day. And if you're not doing that, it's okay, but you should be looking to shift into a direction where you're finding, you chose your niche for a reason, and you should find the way to make it meaningful and interesting. That writing 5 times a week sounds like fun to you. It sounds, even I think about us and where we're going, and I'm like, I'm kind of excited to get to the point to where we have everything really organized and well done, that we can create a lot for our audience, because it's fun. It's fun to share this stuff, and people don't know this stuff, and it's nice to be able to share that with people. So ideally people should get to that point.
Yeah, and I think we're getting to the point too where becoming a content creator is you are an entrepreneur and you are working a full-time job. I mean, you can still
That's
make
yeah.
passive income very easily, but those things are often usually hopping on trends, and they can be, very fleeting depending on how often you can pivot yourself. but this
Right.
kind of content creation, whether it's on Google, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Pinterest, like, Instagram, whatever your platform is, you got to be producing content all the time because this is a huge portion of your job, and thanks to AI, there are
Yeah.
ways to outsource this. And as you grow, you have to have a team to be able to do this then on scaling on multiple platforms. But
Right.
um, yeah, super interesting. Well,
Yeah.
this has been a really good episode. It was really fun to be able
Yeah.
to do this on camera. So I
It
think
has been
that,
fun.
yeah, I think that we can
Yeah.
do this more often to also post this content on our YouTube channel to get a different reach. This is exciting. So,
Yeah, I agree.
anyways,
This is a lot of fun. Well,
well, thanks
perfect.
so
Well,
much, Noah, for being on and also, being on the first video podcast as well. And I can't wait to do it next time.
me too. Thanks for having me, Lauren. And yeah, thanks for having. What was that? What was that? Thanks for joining me and talking to me. It was really fun to chit chat and have an opportunity. Just like we don't get to connect like this all the time, the time zone differences and a lot of people don't realize like you're in Germany and I'm in America, and that's a big time gap. And so it's nice to have this. This is fun. It's really nice to get that opportunity to like not just slack each other all day.
Yeah, for sure. And just to have discussions about these things. So, all right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on. And guys, I will see you in the next episode. Thanks for listening to the Launch Your Blog Biz podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. And if you want to learn more about how you can launch and grow your own blogging business, make sure to check out our website at createandgo.com.